turnovers. The Utes only had 4. Washington State had 17. That was a big part of this game. In fact, the Utes only had 1 turnover at the half. A big part of the whole resurgence is the Utes wanted to get back to winning after dropping that game at Arizona over the weekend. Here's Coach K and Brandon Taylor after the game.
It's what we needed, you know, to get some of that taste out of our mouth. I'm not pleased the fact that we got out-rebounded. You know, the 3rd time this year that we've been out-rebounded, and that was one of the focal points for us. Was, you know, especially getting pounded by Arizona, was let's get back on the glass, and I wasn't pleased necessarily with our inside presence. Obviously, we missed Jakob. You know, he was one of our guys, but we've got some big bodies down there, and I thought they pretty much dominated the paint on the glass, and with a lot of their post-ups put us in a bad way.
Arizona really made this, really made me feel some type of way. I think kind of woke us all up, you know, and stuff like this. You know, we've been kind of riding this like high horse, you know, and it's a game like that that kind of brings you back down to reality, you know, and keeps you on the grind. And at the end of the day, you need games like that, but you hate to have them, but you need games like that. And it woke us up, and it exposed our weaknesses, and it exposed what we need to do and get better as a team all around, you know. So I thought today we took the fight to them opposed to Arizona when they took the fight to us.
All right, there you go. Brandon Taylor, 18 points, 4 3-pointers. David James joining us live now from the Huntsman Center. David, I threw out that stat, which is just almost unbelievable. 17 turnovers for Washington State, and the Utes only had 4. We don't actually hear Coach Kraskowiak talking about that, but you heard him, and he had to have been thrilled about that. I think they only had 1 turnover in the first half.
He loved it. He's been preaching about it forever, and they came through big time. You know, the funny thing is that after getting, you know, beat up by Arizona, who's a big physical team, they're playing Washington State, who's a perimeter team, shoots a lot of threes, will play with a smaller 4-man, and the Utes guards just dominated him, just outplayed him. If you had Brandon Taylor's stats and DeLon Wright's stats together, Dave, they went for 35 points, 15 assists, 6 rebounds, 5 steals, and 0 turnovers between the two of them. They did anything they wanted all night long. Yeah, they dominated the game. Those 2 guys they had outstanding nights, and that's against a perimeter-oriented team.
Well, as long as we're talking about Taylor, a little more on that, and I know you have some post-game interviews on him, but 18 points, including those 4 threes in the second half.
Well, you know, the thing about it is that this isn't a really unusual game for Brandon Taylor. We're starting to see this more and more. It's like he's turned some kind of corner. What's the difference? What has he done? How has he improved? Larry Kraskowiak was asked those questions after the game, and here's his analysis of why Brandon Taylor is now having such a big impact on the Utes.
He's an absolute little warrior. In practice, I remember flashing back his freshman year. He just wouldn't go away. He just kept getting in, and at that time it was Glenn Dean and you know, some people in the backcourt, and he wanted to prove that he could play, and he got our attention against University of Washington on the road, our first road win in the Pac-12, and you know, it's one of those situations I think that I and our coaching staff have an awful lot of faith in him.
Well, he should. He's been playing very well. And, you know, you could accumulate numbers. There were a couple times in this game, because this game was a blowout most of the night, but there were a couple times Wazoo made runs. They had a 6-0 run or something like that. It was like 22-20, 24-22, somewhere in there. And then in the second half, they made another run, and both times he made plays to stop the run. Now, the game wasn't really in the balance. They were still up by, you know, double digits in the second half, but it's not only having good numbers, but making key plays at key times to stop runs and to start your team on a run, and he did that.
Well, and you talked about it, David. This is a team that likes to shoot the ball, and they shot. I think they only shot or hit 1 less three-pointer than the Utes did. So that's something the Utes had to battle the whole night. They did miss a bunch of free throws, by the way, 13 of them, I believe, but that's not something that the Utes are going to have to worry about defending. But, David, I wanted to ask you, tell me about I guess there was a pregame technical foul, and so Washington State actually started with 2 free throws. Tell me about that and Coach K's reaction.
So it turns out what happened was during pregame warm-ups, somebody dunked. Now, you can't dunk before the game, and that is kind of elusive if they don't really define the rule, because what's before the game? You know, I mean, 6 o'clock, 2 o'clock, last night at practice. So the rule is when there's 20 minutes on the clock, So in that final round of warm-ups, the game clock's counting down. You can't dunk in those 20 minutes. Now, how often does that happen? How often is that enforced? That's a matter of debate. It was called tonight, and Larry Krzyzewski kind of sort of complained about it without actually complaining about it, and still found the positive. Here he is when he's asked about, have you ever seen a game start with free throws?
But apparently one of our players dunked in warm-ups in front of the referees, and I'm just really happy now that we're enforcing all the rules of basketball. That's the most important thing, and so that was a little bit unusual.
Wow, a little tongue-in-cheek there, huh?
Yeah, he went on to say, though, he said, you never know. He said this game wasn't that close, but other games will be, and you don't know what referees are watching. You don't know what they're going to call. So know the little stuff, cross the T's, dot the I's, be prepared.
Okay, you know what? I mean, it was Beckett Chapman, by the way, according to the box score. But in my opinion, dumb rule. I mean, why can't they dunk?
I don't know.
So
College
what?
basketball, I don't know. Well, you know, Dave, there was a time, it was in the dark ages, admittedly, but there was a time when you couldn't dunk in games. I mean, there's a famous game where Bill Walton, who's now an announcer and talks about who knows what, when he was in college, you couldn't dunk, and he would rise up, catch the ball, and just like
you
drop
mean
it
at
in
all,
the basket.
in the actual game.
If you threw it down, that was illegal. Right, yeah, you couldn't dunk in a game for a while. So I don't know. I can't explain why the rules are the way they are sometimes.
Well,
they just are.
The Utes got the victory, and that's the main thing. So there you go. All right, David, thank you so much. We appreciate all that big win for the Utes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I should say one more thing.
Yes.
One more thing. Pirtle was out with a sprained ankle that he got when he dunked in the Arizona game, snapped the rim, came down awkwardly. The rim hit him, I guess, and that's why he came down awkwardly. But they're saying he's day-to-day. They're hoping to have him back Sunday, but Larry said, I'm not guaranteeing it. I don't know for sure, but I think maybe probably. So that's where that sits. Washington's coming in, and Washington State just beat Washington, so I don't think they really need him. I think the point is to get him back and get him healthy, because they will need him later against other teams, and you don't want him limping on it all year. You want that thing to, get that thing in the rearview mirror and get it back to 100%.
Well, Washington was playing a lot better before the league season started. So, but you're right, you never know. So, all right, well, good. Thanks for the update on the Pirtle then. We'll see where that goes.
Okay.
David James live from the Huntsman Center. Wednesday night, by the way, means Cougar Nation here on Talkin Sports. And tonight, more big news on the Cougars' future schedules and another impressive football partner coming up. How about this one? Sparty coming to Provo. Now, you're going to see that for about 6 years. BYU's heading to East Lansing in 2016. But BYU and Michigan State announcing a home-and-home series. It begins at BYU with the Spartans October 8th of 2016. And then the return date scheduled for September 12th, 2020. Yeah, it seems so far off. These games will be the first ever between the two schools, and it continues athletic director Tom Holmoe's attempt to keep his schedule at a high level. And I'm telling you, look what he's doing. Over the next 6 to 7 years, look at who's on the schedule. You got Nebraska, UCLA, Michigan next season, Arizona, Utah, UCLA, Michigan State in 16 and 17. You got LSU and Utah. In 18, you have Arizona, Wisconsin, Washington, and Utah. It just continues in 2019. Wisconsin, USC, they've got an extended deal with them. Washington and Wazoo, and then 2020, Sparty again, Arizona State, Missouri, Stanford, Arizona. So challenging schedules definitely coming at Tom Holmoe down there at BYU trying to address